Hello and welcome to Fox Magazine, War on Terror. This week's cover story, Juilliard violinist William Harvey may go on in his career to become a world-famous musician, playing before adoring audiences. But he will never forget the night he made his debut at the New York Armory before a group of survivors and rescuers shortly after the September 11th terror attacks.
I started playing violin when I was 3, although my mom introduced me to my first violin teacher when I was 3 weeks old, so obviously she knew what I was going to do with my life. When I was 15, I appeared on the national radio show From the Top in Boston, which was a wonderful experience. I was very happy to be admitted to the Juilliard School in March of this year, or April, starting school in August. And it was kind of an unusual freshman orientation, of course, because I think the third day of classes was September 11th, and so classes were canceled for 2 days. We were evacuated to the lower floor of the school because our dorm is 29 stories. So it was definitely, as I think for all of us, a scary time. Juilliard had organized as part of our response to what happened, we wanted to send musicians to play for anyone that it would console, that we thought the music would help. I arrived at the Armory around 5 p.m. that day, and it was very difficult emotionally entering the building because of all the thousands of missing posters spread out, all outside the building, inside the building. And so after going through security, I went into the main room of the Armory and sight read some music with some of my friends from Juilliard for a couple hours while families of the victims who were there waiting for information about their loved ones would wander by, listen for a couple minutes, and I think it meant a lot to them. For me, the evening really began at 7 when the other 2 players had to leave, and a man in fatigues who introduced himself as the sergeant major came up to me and asked if I'd mind playing for his soldiers as they came back from digging through the rubble at Ground Zero. And masseuses had volunteered to give his men massages, he said, and he didn't think anything would be more soothing than getting a massage and listening to violin music at the same time. So at 9 p.m., I walked up to the 2nd floor, and as the first men were arriving from then until 11:30, I played basically everything I could play from memory, everything from Tchaikovsky Concerto, Bach B minor Partita, to Turkey in the Straw, Boil Them Cabbages Down, just the whole gamut of everything I could play. It was around 11:20 when I'd been playing for 2 hours and 20 minutes. I was introduced to the colonel, the head of the division, and he said to his friends, he was just talking to them, saying, boy, it was a tough day today. It was the toughest day yet. I made the mistake of going into the pit, and I'm not going to do that again. And I was eager to hear a first-hand account, so I asked, well, what did you see? And he stopped and sort of swallowed and said, what you'd expect to see. And then after that, since he was right there, I played a lengthy rendition of Amazing Grace, just improvised for him, which I think meant a lot to him. At 11:30, I couldn't play anymore, and so I asked the sergeant major if I could play the national anthem, and so he called all the men of the 69th Regiment to attention. They all saluted an invisible flag and facing different directions while I played the national anthem, and that was incredibly meaningful experience for me, and I think I've never really understood so fully the power music has to communicate to other people. Coming back in the taxi ride, that it really started to hit me that you know, sometimes I think a lot of young musicians sometimes have their priorities out of whack in terms of what's important, because I know some experiences I've had at Juilliard show me that kids can sometimes be very critical and competitive of each other. But this experience was not about that. The men didn't care that I had some intonation problems. They didn't care that by the end my bow was shaking. And they didn't care that I had so many memory slips I lost count, and at one point I even had to improvise to somehow work my way to a cadence. So I think it's very important for all of us to remember that music is not about, it shouldn't be about these superficial, technical, or competitive aspects. It's really about the very deep and deep power it has to communicate to other people and change their lives for the better.
What a remarkable young man. In addition to his studies at Juilliard, William directs the foundation Music for the People. Coming up next, we track the source of Osama bin Laden's money.